So excited.
Last night.
Yes. That would be amazing.
Just if you want to share, you know, it's. No, you never know. Secret society.
All right, it is time. Start to, you guys let everyone know too.
Yeah. Oh, the fish looks dead. Good seeing you too. You did that really well. Zach started. Oh, yeah. He's got one. How are you, sir? Sure, I got you. Joe.
Give me a thumbs up. He's just gone. Last picture. And they can hear us from muted, so cover your. Ready. I'm gonna share your screen.
Aloha, everybody. Aloha, everybody. Can you please take your seats? There's a lot of people here standing in the back still registering. We'd like to get started.
You still.
Get excited here. We have a few housekeeping items. The bathrooms, if you need, are down the hall, going out the door, down the hall, and to the right at the end of the hallway. Our membership will vote on the slate of candidates that we have at 11:40 this morning. And I just want to remind everyone that that only members are eligible to vote. So just keep that in mind, please, as the vote comes. Mahalo to Alyssa McDonald over here, the wife who's running our AV system. We're very grateful to have her here. We have about 90 people, so we're joining us remotely. And thanks to Pippa and Jeff, who are at the back of the room there, and to the merchandising team, yes, who's selling t-shirts out front. Anyway, I wanted just to go through some of our highlights for 2024. We really had an incredible year as Aklan Forest. It was amazing. So this is just a quick agenda of the things I want to talk about. We were lucky enough to get a grant from Stanford. We have given donations to the refuge and to Paulina Einer, and I'll explain more about these at the different slides. We did the mural. You see I'm wearing the shirt from the mural. The endowment, update, membership, the store, other activities. We need some volunteers if anyone's willing to help us, and then an update on Walk for the Wild as well. So our first I want to talk about Stanford grant that we received, and Pete Stein, who's the vice president of our organization, is going to come up and just go through this because he was responsible for securing the grant.
Yeah, just real quick, we were approached by students at Stanford who heard about Hakalau Forest, part of a class they have in philanthropy, and the class was set up to provide a $50,000 grant to the winners. We ended up in third place. We got a $10,000 grant revolving around the disease management plan that we're collaborating with to implement. So we're very grateful to Stanford and their Center for Philosophy and Civil Society.
Thank you. Yeah, so these are thanks to all of you who donate to the general fund. These are some of the donations that we made in 2024. $14,000 to helping with Koa and Mamani seedlings. And that includes money also from the Walk for the Wild donations. So people who registered and what came up to the Walk for the Wild in October. Oh, that was the 23 money, yes, from October of 2023 was added into that fund. We provided almost $6,000 in t-shirts for the refuge volunteers. We had a wonderful new program this year on an Amazon wish list, and we actually provided almost $9,000 in greenhouse supplies for the 2 new greenhouses. And I know that Eric is very grateful for that. And we also have about 21 different items on that Amazon wish list. So you can just go to the Amazon wish list and type in Friends of Hakalau Forest, and that pops up. So if any of you would like to continue donating to that, I know that Eric and his team would be very grateful. We also have $2,000 set aside for Faith Nickel, who you'll hear later this morning. She's a student with UC Irvine and is looking at Koa growth on the previous pasture land up at the refuge. So mahalo to all of you for all of you general fund donors. We are extremely grateful for all the dollars because you can see they are very well spent. We also helped Paulina Einer purchase a van, a pre-owned 2017 Mercedes Sprinter van. This holds 14 seats plus the driver. And Paulina Einer, if you're not familiar with it, is an organization that helps provide underserved youth with the ability to go into our forests and learn more about the endemic birds as well. So again, mahalo to everyone. Again, this is where some of your donations are going, and Hawaii Forest and Trail helped provide for that. Donations also went to fund the mural. I'm wearing the t-shirt of the mural, so that you can buy these 50 t-shirts out at the front door there of the building. So this is an amazing success story, and we had a very short window of time, and Pat Hart was very instrumental in helping us have a chance to paint the mural on the side of this building. So we're going to have a dedication for that at noon today. Brett's going to give us a short presentation about the Akiapola Owl, and then we'll go outside and there'll be a mural dedication that is organized by UH. And then this year, we're also trying to do another mural in perhaps in Kona or in Waimea. We're on the lookout for a new site, and we'll be looking for a local artist to paint them. And we did this quickly this last year because we wanted to make sure we were within the year for the DLNR's Year of the Forest Birds. So we wanted to get this one up, the first one up quickly, and hopefully we'll have a series of these around the island. The endowment is going from strength to strength. You can see on the graph there, those are the amounts that we have raised each year since the endowment was started in 2015. So that is just continuing to climb. This year, in fact, last year we raised $380,000 from 312 donors, average donation of $1,200. 37% were first-time donors, so that's 116 new donors, which is wonderful for us. A high number of repeat donors, which is great, and we've got some other statistics there. Repeat donors from all the prior years at 43%, and repeat donors from the previous year, from 2023, 48%. So as I'm sure most of you know, our goal is to raise $3.5 million for this endowment. And what we want to do at that point is then we'll be able to use the money generated from the investment to provide money for the refuge, for habitat improvements and things there. So we're about 60% there. It's been a pretty remarkable story. And mahalo to Sharon and Mike Scott, who I know are on this call remotely. Mike and Sharon have both been cheerleaders in this effort. It's been amazing to have them as part of the organization here. Just incredible.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I think we need to give ourselves a round of applause. The endowment is almost $2 million. Who believed that was possible 5 years ago?
Great, yeah, thank you. And this is just a little more about the endowment. So in 2020, this is sort of how we started taking off in terms of the numbers of amount we were raising each year for the endowment. In 2020, we rebuilt the website, and we had a sort of a matching fund program that we had just started towards the end of that year. And you can see that we were able to raise $163,000 that year. And then from then on, we've just we actually have started producing these brochures. So the one on the left with the purple background was our 2021 brochure, and then 22, 23, and 24. And you can see that we increased the number of brochures we had printed each year. And so the amount that we've raised each year has gone along with that. It has been a remarkable story, as Pete said. I wanted to talk a little about our membership. We're at a record membership for the Friends of Hakalau Forest, 425 members, which is fantastic. We have about 2,000 entries into ETAP, which is our membership database, made up of members, donors, and volunteers. We're hoping to add a couple of new membership levels this year. We're having a few technical difficulties getting that implemented. But we're trying to introduce a 40 club, which would be to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the refuge, which is this year. So that membership would be $40 for this year. So hopefully you'll hear more about that. And then we're also implementing a Friend of the Forest, excuse me, category, a higher category with a free t-shirt and a 10% discount on our online store. That would be $500 a year. So mahalo to Jane Mayer. Jane's one of our board members as well. She's in Florida, and her team, they do a fantastic job of membership. So thank you to that team. Another amazing committee that we have is the Online Store and Merchandise Committee, and you can see there some of the products that we have, the t-shirts, the new mural t-shirts, the hats, the swag bags there. And we had record sales of merchandise last year as well, and a greatly increased variety of merchandise. New t-shirts with the new Friends of Bacalao Forest logo, which we had developed early last year. We have hats, greeting cards, and I know you saw the different things out there at the sales desk, the tables out there. So mahalo to Beth and her team. They have done a fabulous job of just increasing the variety of things that we have. Other committees have been equally as active. The Finance Committee, Joe, who's on our board, has converted our financials to QuickBooks, which was something that we needed to do, and he's done a remarkable job in a really quick period of time to get that moved over. The Education Committee, hopefully you've seen the trifold display board up there by the registration desk. Lisa runs the Education Committee, and Anne both helped pull that together this year. So that's been useful. It's gone over to Honolulu for the Hawaii Conservation Conference, and we'll be using it a lot more this year at different events. The Volunteer Committee, we had 11 volunteer trips last year, taking 102 visitors up to the refuge. And mahalo to Ken, who was the interim chair of that committee last year. And then Alyssa, thank you too for the newsletter and all the informational emails that you helped send out. So mahalo to all the committees. Everyone's totally engaged, and it's really fun to be part of this group. So speaking of volunteers, we're in search of some volunteers. On that little box on the side there, you can see that we have 2, 4, 6, 8 trips, thanks to Leah, up at the refuge, 8 trips, volunteer trips planned this year. The ones in yellow are committed with leaders, but we're looking for leaders for the February event, the March event, and then we're hoping to do a family volunteer trip in July and an artist trip. So if any of you would like to be leaders, please talk to me after the meeting, or email me or whatever. We'd love to have you join us. And then we're also looking for committee members for the endowment committee, people who can help fundraise, and then also people who can help send out the Friends of Bacalao Forest, the brochures that I showed you earlier. And then when people donate, we send them mahalo notes. So we just sort of divide that into sort of 2 parts. So we're looking for people for that committee who would be willing to address labels and then write mahalo notes to the people who have donated very generously. We're looking for extra people for the Education Committee, people who can man booths at different events, and we'll provide some training for that, and people who can help develop educational programs for all different age groups about the endemic birds and about what's available up at the refuge. Retail Committee also needs help with inventory management and booth sales. So I actually have a committee sign-up sheet, a volunteer committee sign-up sheet up at the back by the registration desk. So if anyone is interested in any of those positions, please just sign up and we'll get in touch with you. Walk for the Wild. Walk for the Wild was amazing this year. It was really fun. We had 450 attendees. This was October the 1st last year. I keep saying I'm like basically a year behind. 450 attendees, 140 vehicles. We sold out in 5 days. That was just remarkable. We had a lot of social media. We teased about a couple of weeks before, like the registration deadline is coming up. Please make sure you get on that if you want to register for the Walk for the Wild. And in 5 days, we were at capacity, which was remarkable. About 33% were first-time visitors to the refuge. We received 7,000 in donations, and again, that money will go into seedlings for this year. We sold about almost 6,000 in merchandise at that event, and mahalo to Patty Kupchak, who was a team leader for 2024, and 90 plus volunteers. Really a huge event, but very successful. And we had one of our volunteers, Joshua Haya, was created a video for us. And I want to show you. You're the it's the debut of this video. He just put it together, and it's really a wonderful story about Hakalau. So I've got to figure out how to do it. I need to listen.
Thanks.
We're here at Tuckahoe Forest National Wildlife Refuge for the Wild Day. We've got about 600 people coming down looking for birds and plants, and we have almost 100 people that are guiding, and that's just pretty exciting.
It's a great event where you can come and experience the refuge and especially our native wine.
And going around seeing all kinds of families, student groups coming out, experienced birders, entomologists, as well as botanists coming out here to talk about all sorts of things.
Standing here at the top of the Walk for the Wild Trail, our goal here is to prevent the spread of rot.
ROD stands for rapid ohia death, which is a fungus and something that really affects our native ohia trees here in this forest. It's really good practice to brush the bottoms of your boots and to clean all of your gear and spray your boots with isopropyl alcohol to prevent the spread of
Buffalo Forest is one of the best examples of what's left in Hawaii. When it comes to native forest and native birds. Because of climate change and invasive species and human habitation, this is the best example of what used to be common throughout Hawaiian Islands.
But here it's amazing to see this ecosystem where most of the plants are native plants. This is one of the few places in Hawaii you can see these honey creepers thriving in habitat.
For the people out there that don't know, the honey creepers are actually one of the most unique species of birds in the world because of what they've done and how they've adapted. They're very unique and they kind of have filled every role in the Hawaiian forest.
The keystone manu that is very famous for being here at Hakalau is the Akiapola'au. And one of the really special things about that bird is it's actually the bird on the planet that has the longest period of parental care. They've been known to keep their chicks for as long as 18 months.
Feeds almost exclusively on insects on koa trees. Short lower bill, long upper, and pecks into the wood like a woodpecker, although it is a honey creeper.
Entomologist and volunteering today to show the backbone of the ecosystem. Insects that are the main food for the birds up here. The Akiapola'au requires 80% of its diet from wood-borne insects. The adults, Plagiaphomyces, which is the wood-borne beetle. The other important food for most of the nectar-feeding birds are the caterpillars. We have inchworm moths. When the nectar feeders are there, they see one of these little red caterpillars and collect them to feed the young, which love the protein.
This is one of the only forests on islands that does not have avian malaria. So there's lots of people working very hard to keep it that way.
We also had some acoustic monitors. When we can't be serving for the birds all year round, the songbirds are listening for the birds, and then we're using that data to help monitor the populations more continuously.
That data allows us to understand how many birds have in the forest. All the year in different for the target species.
It's been a great day. Lots of people from the public, children, and the parents and grandparents have been coming out, and the weather has been perfect, and all the birds have been available for everyone to see.
Very special to share this place with everyone because we've all put so much work, time, and energy into this place. Many volunteers, many biologists, many professionals.
so much for coming out. Such an awesome experience to see so many people so interested and passionate about our forests and our native birds.
if you have a chance, visit the Hakalau Refuge when the next open house occurs and meet some of these six-legged native wildlife. We hope to see you next year at Montana Wild.
Amazing, so yeah, thanks Joshua, it's incredible to be able to get that footage, so you'll see more of that hopefully around town and as many places that we can to find to distribute that. So that's it, that's my update, just mahalo nui loa to each and every one of you, we really appreciate everything that everyone does to support the Friends of Hakalau Forest. So we have a really fun, strong, energetic and group who are committed to helping Hakalau Forest, so mahalo. At this point, I'm going to quickly bring up Marsha Stone. Marsha, would please come up here. We have some awards each year. We hand out awards to special people. We want to give Marsha an award. Marsha has been on the board of the Friends of Hakalau Forest since 2021. Been a wonderful, committed board member, especially on the finance committee, most recently as assistant treasurer. Marsha has been very helpful as our feet on the ground with our recent Akiapola mural project, providing hugely valuable answers to a multitude of questions. He's also contributed frequently to our Friends of Hakalau Forest newsletter with well-researched and written articles on endemic Hawaiian plants. Marsha has also been a Walk to the Wild organizer, taken on many other tasks, too numerous for us to even count. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Nice. Thanks, Martha. And we're also giving awards to Jane Mayo. Jane is online, I know, with us. So Jane, it'll be a surprise to you, and we'll have to mail you your award. But we wanted to say thank you for all of your efforts as well with the membership committee. I know you've been on the board since 2023, and managing that membership database is a huge task, and it involves virtually all the other committees that we have on the Friends of Hakalau Forest. Jane also serves on the executive committee as an at-large board representative, and on the finance committee, the Jack Jeffrey Fund Committee, and the technology committee. She's just delightful to work with, efficient, punctual, smart, and provides thoughtful input at meetings. And Jane and her husband recently located to Florida, so but we're thrilled that she's going to continue to work for us. So it's a good thing. Okay, at this point, a few minutes behind, but I'd like to introduce Tom Cady. Come up. Tom, I'm sure most of you know very well. He's been at Hakalau now for 6 years, and came to Hawaii from Southwest Alaska. It's quite a change, come from Alaska to Hawaii. So we've just been very grateful. We have a great relationship with you and your team, and appreciate all that you do for us. Jump in there.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, again, my name is Tom Cady. I'm the manager at Hakalau Forest National Wildlife Refuge. Thank you so much for inviting me here today to share a little bit about what's happening at the refuge. And before I get started, I wanted to mention, as I was putting this presentation together and pulling together information and pictures and whatnot, it just really struck me that the subject of Hakalau is really huge. It's diverse, it's complex, and it's really dynamic. It changes every day almost. But so I just want you to appreciate that there's a lot going on with these pictures and words that I've got on these slides. There's a big story behind all of them. So just kind of keep that in mind as I work through the presentation. And I also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our staff and thank them for all the hard work that they do. They're incredible. They're always busy. There's an enormous body of work that goes on at Hakalau. And so I just want to extend my thank you and appreciation to them. And also all of our numerous volunteers and partners and collaborators. it's actually all of them that are behind these stories. So thank you for that. Okay, so as I move along, so Debbie, I'm going to count on you to keep me on task so I don't go too far, because I want to make sure, I know in the past we've had a lot of questions, and so I want to make sure there's some time for that. But much like last year and previous years, I'm just going to cover each of our program areas, provide a few updates and highlights, and then a couple mentions about what's happening this year. So starting with our biology program, some happy bird schoolers there. Unfortunately, the first thing I was going to mention is not a great thing, but we've lost our biologist back in September. That person moved on, Eldridge, a lot of you knew him, to promotion. So good for him. Not so good for Hakalau, but and unfortunately, we're just not sure yet when we're going to be able to fill behind that position. But we've been successful in bringing in cooperation with Pohakaloa, student trainee position that's helping fill in some of the gaps. We've also got some extra support from our inventory and monitoring staff over in Honolulu, in addition to a lot of other collaborators and partners. So we're getting by. That's a good thing. As I showed in the previous picture, that's really important to the refuge. We've trained up a bunch of new bird counters that are going to be qualified to conduct our annual surveys that are going to be coming up this spring. So that contributes to our ability to understand what's going on with the densities at the refuge. And then certainly I want to acknowledge our USGS partners for helping us develop an abbreviated, I'll call it, analysis system for analyzing that data more efficiently. In the past, we've only been able to do updates about every 5 years. So we're hoping for something that'll allow us to do something on more of an annual basis. And I just wanted to mention too, we're still working on avian malaria management plan. As most of you are probably aware, there's activities going on Maui and Kauai associated with reducing the risk of avian malaria. And we're starting to get things together for possible treatments over here on Hawaii. So stay tuned for that. A lot more to come in the near future. All right, one of everybody's favorite topics, the plant propagation program, just showing here the recently remodeled greenhouse and some young plants coming up there. And our team, our propagation team, one of whom is here today. There he is, Eric. Yeah, and so just a couple of mentions about that program. It's very exciting to have it back online, especially with the remodel of what we call the Laulima greenhouse, the original greenhouse structure. Complete overhaul of that structure. It took a long time to get there, but it is an amazing facility right now. We're hoping to have an opening ceremony for it early this spring. So there should be something coming out about that before too long. Currently, we've got about 16 species in production, mostly canopy species, koa, ohia, and moani. But our goal is to get ramped back up to what things were back in 2019 and before, where we're producing about 25,000 seedlings a year that would be produced and outplanted out onto the refuge. So we're just kind of in that build-up phase again. And then this last item is something really cool that I'm very excited about because it's something I've been wanting for a long time. So Eric and the crew and some of our other staff have been hard at work, really hard at work, collecting a lot of information about what our past outplantings look like and where they're at, as well as what he's calling kupuna trees, more or less old growth trees that are on the refuge or residual from the ranching era that are still out there for seed collection primarily. And the yellow polygons are representing, and this is just a snapshot, of course, but the yellow polygons are representing where we've done outplantings, and then all the dots are representing the different tree species in that kupuna tree category. So it's just an amazing database that we're building out there. So it's not often that I get to talk about a new program. So seed collection has always been part of Hakalau, but now we've got a specially designated project associated with that. A lot of partners involved, the parks, Park Service and other refuges in the system. And that's really starting to pay off. But slide got all that stuff. Anyhow. The purpose of the program is to build resiliency and enable recovery from wildfire events. So it's funded by the BUILD program, so that we have a ready store of plants and have actually restored native forest so that it's more resistant essentially to wildfire. And from this program, we've been able to hire 2 GS7 technicians that are out there collecting a lot of seeds, as you can see, approximately 1.5 million from 20 species in just about 4 months. They started back in September or so. And that's resulted in about 40 pounds worth of seeds, 30 pounds or so of which we've been able to retain at the refuge for propagation purposes. And 10 pounds have been shipped over to the Lyon Arboretum for long-term storage. Okay, so just a fun slide. This next picture I've got is going to have 3 pictures of different fruits being processed to extract the seeds. And I want everybody to just shout out what the plants were that generated the fruit. So just don't be shy, just shout them out. See if everybody can get them. And Eric, you got to be quiet. All right, let's hear it. Wow. No. Eric, help them out.
Skilos.
That's one of them. That's the middle one. Oh my goodness, they're getting stumped. I thought everybody would be able to answer this. Eric.
High-blocker sandwich this on the far right.
Yeah.
I can't really see the one on the left.
Oh, sorry, it's not coming out. That's Pukiabi. Shoot, I was hoping this would be around. I thought it was really cool. I hadn't seen this in the past, so I just thought it was really neat to see the colors in the process to get.
What's the red one on the right?
Popolo.
High-blocker sandwich
Yeah, it looks like
flour.
green chili.
What I had for dinner.
Awesome. Anyhow, moving along. So
That's a big.
Yes, one of the other big topics everybody likes to hear about, so our invasive species management program. Starting with the pigs. So this is not something I'm really thrilled to share, but essentially it's what you can kind of interpret just visually here. So the green is showing we're basically at a maintenance level for maintaining pigs in the different management units. Yellow is we're getting to green, and red is we've got some issues out there still. And what the slide's showing is the progression from about 2019. We were in pretty good shape. And then in the last few years after 2019, we started to lose some ground, and now we're trying to regain it. So we're getting there, but it's obviously a long, tedious process. And I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. So just to point out some of the reasons behind what's going on there. Obviously, number one, we're surrounded by pigs on the periphery of the fenced refuge area, the managed area. Access to and within the refuge is very difficult, so that's a very time-consuming endeavor just to get around to help to manage the ungulates. We often have compromised fences, naturally occurring events, but also we experience people deliberately cutting fences. We just had one last week that I heard about, and some activity that was spotted along with that within the fenced area. So. And then the last part is these unexpected events that we keep encountering, things like government shutdowns or a COVID pandemic, or really uncalled for storms. We had a big wind event in 22, knocked a lot of trees down, took out a lot of fence lines that really significantly contributed to the change in what our densities are out there on the management units. But the things that are working in our favor. So when I first started here, we had about 2.5 staff, permanent staff that were like fully dedicated to invasive species management. We've been able to build up that program. There's about 4.5 staff now. I know it's hard to picture a half staff, but there's a number of folks are contributing small parts of their time to that. But really 4 dedicated staff for just dealing with invasive species management. As I pointed out last year, we've learned a lot. We've changed our strategy a bit. We've got a lot of new tools out there to help us in managing the ungulates. And then we've got this year, finally, 2 funded contracts to deal with the ungulate problems in 1 management unit in Hakalau, and then the two sub-units, I'll say, over in Kona. So that's very exciting. We've been waiting for that for a long time. And that's finally should be coming online here before too long. And then certainly we're expanding our partner and neighbor relations to try to make some improvements in some of the things that are affecting us in that respect. Okay, just a quick mention on the plants. So this is a very busy slide, but just some of the what I'll call like our top 3 targets on the refuge these days. So gorse, of course, everybody is familiar with what that map is representing is known gorse area broken down into small manageable units. And then the green blocks are where we've had really intensive effort to subdue the gorse, usually with a contract or a partner doing a lot of that work. And then the other 2 slides are our partners BISC are busy trying to help us deal with Photinia that is largely contained over in the Honahina area. And you can see it's kind of creeping onto the Piha unit there for DOFA, and then English holly. And what the yellow polygons are represented are the known occurrence area that we've surveyed so far. And then you can't really see very well, but the dots are where there have been individual treatments. So a very labor intensive, go out, find the plants, kill them, catalog them on a GPS, and then, maintain a database so there we can monitor the expansion or hopefully reduction of these species. So still a long ways to go. And this is just 3 of the species that we're dealing with up at Hakalau. Just a quick mention about our maintenance program. Alyssa? The text disappeared. Anyhow, the thing that I wanted to mention about our amazing maintenance crew of 2 right now is that they spend a lot of time focusing on the greenhouse remodel primarily. And then associated with that, in the small picture in the middle there, we've completely redone the plumbing and electrical that supplies our greenhouses. That's okay.
It's just gone.
Yeah, I know. Fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And the thing that really occupies a lot of their time, unfortunately, is we got lots of buildings to take care of. We got roads to try to take care of, and we got a vehicle fleet that is constantly giving us problems. So these guys are hard at work all the time, trying to keep us busy and trying to keep us working up there. So I wanted to make sure to acknowledge all their efforts in this endeavor. And then mention about our volunteer program, always a popular item at Hakalau. So in 24, we had 40 groups total, about 600 individuals contributing about 7,500 hours of labor. And if you do some fuzzy math, that equates to about $250,000 worth in labor funding to the refuge. So nothing insignificant there. And a huge thank you to all of our volunteers. I know there's probably a lot of folks out there that have not only participated in our volunteer program, but have been trying to get into it again, and probably some new volunteers want to come on, and we try our best to accommodate everybody, but the demand is definitely significant for the volunteer program. And then certainly the popular activities are always out there planting seedlings on the refuge, but we also have them help with a number of maintenance projects, grounds maintenance, that sort of thing. And then Leah, how many frost protection devices do you think they made this year? A couple thousand, 10,000?
There was like a little over 4,000.
4,000, cool. So that helps in the survival of the recently outplanted seedlings. So big contribution there too, so thank you. And then finally, just a couple mentions, as Debbie already brought up, we've selected a date for what we're calling a 40th anniversary celebration that will incorporate a walk certainly, but it'll be more like the old days of the open houses. So I definitely want folks to be able to come over and experience the refuge, the station, and see the greenhouse, see the plants in production, and some other things that have been going on at the station as well. So stay tuned for more information on that. I did want to mention we have, as great as the volunteer program is, we've had to scale back a little bit this year, partly because we want a lot more participation in the outplanting. So, as I mentioned, we're trying to build back up that capacity, and also to give our visitor services staff some time to be able to focus on some other needs in that realm. And then certainly I just wanted to call your attention to, again, that we've got 3 big contracts, the 2 ungulate contracts And then hopefully, also soon we'll be awarding a contract to completely redo our photovoltaic system, our solar system up at the refuge, which is critically important to keeping us up at the refuge working. And then finally, Debbie already mentioned this, but I just wanted to offer a huge thank you on behalf of the refuge to the Friends organization. You guys are amazing. And I just took a lot of the numbers that had been generated from all of the donations to the endowment, plus other direct funding donations and materials and supplies donated to the refuge. And if you look at it in sum total, and that's just the materials and money, almost $500,000 contributed to the refuge in 2024. So huge thank you. And that does not even count, as Debbie mentioned, all of the volunteer effort that goes into maintaining the board and all of the committees and all the other activities associated with that on and off the refuge as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so blessed to have you helping us out. We can't do it without you. Appreciate that. Finally, are there any questions? Did I do okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
That's great.
One question? Anybody got a question?
Are there any other national refuge models of component model and volunteer support groups such as Friends of Hucklelow in the state of Hawaii on any other refuge, or how common is this fabric that we're here together on in the nation?
This organization, I'm going to say, is premier in the nation. There are three other organizations that I'm aware of in the Hawaiian Islands. So there's one for Midway, there's one at Kilauea Point over on Kauai, and then there's one starting on Oahu for James Campbell. And then, well, Kailua Pond kind of has one.
Yeah, that's true. They do.
Yeah.
I don't know how big that is.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about their program. So what did I say? 4. Yeah.
So on a national level, it's you're one of 3.
Oh. Well, yeah, I would say we're recognized. The Friends of Hakulau Forest National Wildlife Refuge are identified as a very well-organized organization, and then with the endowment, especially highly proactive in providing really substantial support for a refuge unit. So there's about 580 refuge units in the system, and a large portion of those actually have Friends organizations associated with them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Done. All right, I'll be around too, man.
Thanks, Tom. That was great. And yes, Tom's correct. We've often been asked to jump onto podcasts and different things and tell people, tell other friends groups about what we do and how we do it so successfully. So feather in our cap. Anyway, now I'd like to invite Pat to speak. I'm sure everyone knows Pat as well. We're very pleased to have him here. He's actually, I counted out how long you've been on the board, Pat. 10 years you served on the board for the Friends of Hakulau Forest. Starting in 2007. Is that 18? Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. We could turn the lights down. Yeah, well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming this morning. I'll stand here, maybe you can hear me a little bit better. But yeah, I've been on the board at least 10 years. I've been working at Hakulau since 1991 now, which is kind of seemed like a long time all of a sudden. But yeah, what I wanted to do was just talk a little bit about the way the birds communicate with each other at Hakulau. Some of the work that we're doing in our lab to document their communication or their song, and especially focusing a little bit towards the end on the ways that we're using their song in new ways to monitor changes in their population abundance over time. So some new techniques that are still being developed, but we've come a long ways, and present some of that to you today. And then finally, in response to Tom, Katie, and the rest of the board asking for information about the effect of Walk for the Wild on the birds, I'm going to present some preliminary information about what we know about that right now as well.
So. Yeah, thanks. So, I don't exactly know how to make the slide. That there, okay, great. So first of all, if any of you drove by this STV building, you'll see the new mural on the side of the wall. And I just wanted to introduce the OLI that's part of that mural. And it's part of a larger OLI that we've created as part of a new bird biocultural group in Hawaii. It's called Ahui Manu. And one of the things that we've done in Ahui Manu is create a new OLI for Hawaiian birds. And each verse in the OLI has a highlights a native Hawaiian bird. And so what's below that mural is the part of the OLI for the Akea Pola'au. And so, my glasses. Anyways, it goes, Owai ke kia o ka wa'a o Makali'i, o ka Akea Pola'au ke kia, kia i'ie ka ina noho I kai, ola mauloe ke koa noho iuka, o ka Akea Pola'au, auna lele a pa'ahia. And what that means is, who's the master of Makali'i? Makali'i is a constellation, but it's also a canoe, a Hawaiian voyaging canoe. And the Akea Pola'au is associated with that mast. Oftentimes the masts were made out of koa. Akea Pola'au forages primarily on koa, accompanied by the ina, which dwells at sea. It's a type of a sea urchin. It's that rock-boring urchin. Like the Akea Pola'au, it bores into very hard things to find its food. Healthy and ever enduring through the koa, which dwells Mauka. So then the Akea Pola'au flies in droves, everlasting, they are secured. And so basically it's a way, it's sort of a new way to connect the people of Hawaii with our bird ancestors, basically. Those animals that have been here a lot longer than us, right? And so there's a lot of the connections between people in Hawaii and the birds have been lost. Birds were incredibly important in all aspects of life in early Hawaii. And so this is just another way of bringing back some of those connections. And so that's part of that OLI that's up on the wall of this building right here. And so part of that, you know, a lot of what I'm going to be doing today is sharing some of the vocalizations of the birds. You know, oftentimes when you go out in the forest at Hakalau, you just hear this and all the incredible sounds of the birds. It's really probably the noisiest forest in Hawaii, but oftentimes you've really got to look close to see the birds, yeah? So the soundscape is just filled with them, and so oftentimes the way we find them is through sound. And so what I wanted to do is share some of the sounds of the birds today as well with you, and many of you probably know these, but this is the Akea Pola'au right here. I'll make it a little louder. Okay. And that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so we all know that, you know, Hawaiian birds are incredibly variable in their morphology, in their colors, in their bill shape, and what they do for a living in the forest, the different niches that they occupy, right? And so what hadn't been known really until recently is the variability in what they say to each other. It's a much harder thing to study and to understand. We know that, you know, about 30% of a bird's brain is devoted towards interpreting the vocalizations from other birds or being able to produce the vocalizations themselves. So vocalizing is really important in the life of a bird. And so what we've been trying to do in our lab, in the Lohe lab here at UH Hilo, is to document that variability and the complexity in Hawaiian birds. We want to know, you know, as our birds decline, we know that, you know, it reduces the gene pool, the genetic variability. How does the decline of birds influence their acoustic variability, their language, more or less? Because they learn their language, I call it language, they learn it from each other. And so how does the decline in their population size affect things that they learn from each other? There's fewer individuals to learn from. So that's one thing that we look at in our lab. And so what I'm gonna do is just talk a little bit about the variability in Hawaiian bird vocalizations, just really fast. And that variability is important because it affects how we've been training algorithms lately to automatically detect the song of Hawaiian birds from landscape, from acoustic recordings, from automated recordings. And so if any of you, well, I'll get into that later. Anyways, so common birds in Hawaii the take-home message that I'm going to be getting across here is that our birds have more complexity in what they say than most birds throughout the world. Any bird, like the Hawaii amakihi, for example, has a common trill. I'm going to play it. So that that varies within a mile across the landscape. If you record the amakihi in one place in Puna, like on this map, that trill is much different than just a very close by area. At the bottom of HPP, for example, they sound different than they do at the top of HPP, for example. So I will just play just an amakihi from Hakalau here. And this is based on the work of Josh. So that's an amakihi trill. So that's Hakalau, and then this is the Kipuka, which is about the same elevation, but 10 miles away. I mean, it kind of sounds different, but the spectrograms look a lot different. So I think what the birds are hearing is much more subtly different than what we're picking up. So this is work that Joshua Peng Ching, who is a grad student in our lab, did. He's now at DOFA locally. He's a wildlife biologist at DOFA. The EEV, so I was talking about song variability. The EEV have an incredibly varied repertoire. If you listen to EEV, oftentimes you know it's EEV because they have kind of a nasally sound. You know, they're named after what they sound like, but they have so many different syllables that they combine in different ways, and it varies by individual. So one thing we're working on with some groups is being able to identify individual birds based on their song. I think we're going to get there one of these days with some AI tools that are getting developed. We're definitely not there yet. So EEV, all of you, well, many of you know EEV, but this is from the Kipuka. It's the EEV. The Kipuka. That looks easy. So I play these sorts of videos all the time, and sometimes I assume people know what they're looking at, but basically it's time on the x-axis and then the frequency range on the y-axis. And the color is a measure of how loud that is, right? So in this case, the more yellowy green, the louder the signal is. Anyways, we're just kind of moving through. I'm not going to play the 0.2 speed. Well, okay, I'll do it really quick. It's interesting because I like to do this because sometimes in the lab when we're analyzing the bird song, we need to slow it down to pick out the intricacies because birds, you know, they're sipping sugar water all day long. Their brains are running really fast. I think that they're able to interpret a lot more of the variability of the song than we can hear with our ears, right? A lot more of the information. But when you slow it down, then our slow brains can more easily understand some of that information. So here's the EV at 0.2 speed. I'll just play a tiny bit of this. So that's the or the . So it's a completely different thing when you slow it down. I mean, a traffic jam is probably the closest thing that I can come to. Similarity. The Oma'o, I'm gonna be talking a little bit more about that later, our effect on the Oma'o. We've had a number of students in the lab studying the song of the Oma'o, very common at Hakalau. And it seems that every individual Oma'o basically has a different repertoire, or it sings a different set of syllables than every other individual Oma'o. So we think that we'll be able to someday identify individuals based on, if you record them in the forest, run it through, some fancy algorithms, we should be able to say which individual that is, if we've been able to document, or at least that this one is different than this one. But hugely variable in what they say to each other. Many of you know what the Oma'o song sounds like. I'll play it real fast here. All right, and then here's from the Kipuka. It sounds like an Oma'o, but when you really get into comparing the different notes and syllables, the individuals are quite different. And so not only are the individuals different, but they change what they say depending on where they are in their home range. So we had another student working on this, Erin Natoski, and she found we put backpack transmitters on them where it actually transmits the song of the bird through radio frequencies as opposed to just little blips. It's actually, she could go and with the receiver, hear that Oma'o singing through the receiver that she has the transmitter on. And of course, this is all recorded, and you can see how what they say varies depending on where in their home range they are. So when they're in thick habitat, they say one thing, and then when they're more open areas, they change their voice to other things. And then it also depends on who's nearby. So there's a lot more going on when we listen to birds singing. There's just a lot more going on oftentimes than meets the eye. Yeah. Yeah, so Apapane are another just incredible bird. I mean, they're the most abundant of the remaining Hawaiian honey creepers. At certain times of the year, they're huge, they're really abundant at Hakalau. September 14th is not the best time to see Apapane and Eevee at the refuge, but anyways. But when they are around, they're incredibly variable. And so we had a student, Paolo, was just studying Akiapola'au song, and he would go to, he'd start, for example, at the top of a transect, say, up near where the trail going down Puakala starts. He'd record Akiapola'au there, document all the different syllables that he's hearing, go down 200 meters to the next station, record all those syllables, mostly different syllables in the mix. So different, they're changing what they say depending on where they are. He goes down another 200 meters and it's almost a completely different mix of notes and syllables from those birds down there compared to the ones just a little bit above on the trail, right? And so why are they doing this? We honestly have no idea why. Well, we have some ideas, but we're not going to get into those right now. But anyway, it's super interesting. Also across the Kipuka system, like down here in the bottom right, certain Kipuka have a much more greater similarity in what they're saying to each other than other Kipuka just really close by, even though the birds are flying back and forth between all these areas on a regular basis. So what we think is that the Apapane individuals are changing what they say depending on where they are across the landscape. And so it seems to be certain dialects that hold that individuals take on as they move into these places. And as they move out, they pick up other more common notes and syllables to say based on that new area, right? Don't ask me why they do that. These are just some Apapane songs. I realized this one actually sounds kind of weird. And I was playing this back, I was like, it sounds really fast, but the timing does seem to be right, but I'm gonna play it anyways. This is a really fast Apapane trill. That's from Kuachara at Hakalau. It's all off of pines.
Nurses.
And pretty much the same day at the Pedro tract, closer over to Hakalau, this is what they're saying to each other. Don't see that trill at all. So as I mentioned, we think that as our birds are declining, it's affecting their vocal repertoire because they learn all of their notes and syllables from each other as they're growing up. They're songbirds, which is what songbirds do. And so if they have fewer individuals to learn from, there's a great potential to reduce their complexity and variability of their language, you could say. And so it does seem that this is happening. We study this. This is not Hakalau, this is Kauai for the Akikiki and Akike'e. We took recordings from the 70s and we compared them to more recent recordings. Unfortunately, neither one of these are really even found in Alakai anymore, but we did just even a few years ago, we were able to make recordings of the last individuals out there and found that the complexity of their repertoire is much reduced nowadays than compared to the way it was before. And this is just this slide you can see it's for 3 species, the Kauai Yamakihi, the Aniania, and the Akike at the bottom. The repertoire has changed quite a bit from the 70s on the left to present day in general. Anyways, I won't play that particular one because we need to move on. Okay, so how does all this relate to conservation of birds at Hakalau? Understanding the variability is super important, as I kind of mentioned, because what we do now is we have new tools to both record the song of birds. Like when I started studying birds at Hakalau, to record them was a huge undertaking. And to look at a spectrogram, like what we're looking at right now, would require really specialized software and equipment, very expensive. Now we can put out these tiny little song meters into the forest, program them to record for like 2 months at a time, or even 3 months, depending on the recording schedule, all day long, 5 minutes on, 5 or 10 minutes off. And so and they're fairly inexpensive. We can get these song meter micros now for about $150 each. And so you can afford to buy dozens and dozens of these things and put them out along transects and just record what's going on in the forest and have this incredible baseline information on how the soundscape of the forest is changing over the course of the day, weeks, months, seasons, and then especially between years. And so we've actually, in our lab here at UH Hilo, we started doing some of these recordings about 10 years ago now. I started putting out song meters. So I have 10 years of continuous birdsong data from Hakalau from 3 recorders anyways. And we're ramping that up right now, putting out a lot. We've been putting out a lot more. Going way down to the very lowest parts of Hakalau, down 3,900 feet or so, down near the lowest fences on transects. And I'll be talking about a little bit of that, but really just wanted to talk about how these soundscape recordings can be used to better monitor changes in our population size in the birds so that we can improve the way that we manage them. So we know if there's a sudden decrease in a kepa, we can do something about it, without waiting for years and years for that information to come out. So anyways, as I mentioned before, sound is the primary way that forest birds keep track of who's around, how many there are, where they are. And so we can record that with these passive acoustic monitors. And as I mentioned, there's great potential to improve the way we monitor forest birds at Hakalau. This is a dawn chorus with, you know, I have a friend, he's at the Cornell lab, and he goes around the world and makes recordings of soundscapes, primarily with birds, all through tropical forests around the world. His favorite dawn chorus is Hakalau. Anyways, so, you know, we've been working really closely with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, helping them to develop this BirdNet algorithm. That's the one that you can use in Merlin on your phone. You've probably noticed if you have Merlin, it doesn't work very well for Hawaiian birds. A lot of that's because of this really extreme variability in what they say. They've had trouble training the BirdNet app for Hawaiian birds. It's just not that great. Our main goal in our lab for the last 5 years is to use the song of birds to improve the way we monitor them. We work with Cornell. BirdNet was not working very good. We found a new collaborator. His name is Tom Denton, and he's at Google. He's in the Google DeepMind division, and he can Google's allowed him to spend full time improving AI tools and machine learning tools for birdsong. And so Tom was actually just here last week. We're working on kind of a new model that hasn't been come out yet, but we've been working with him really closely for the last couple of years now, and he developed in Google this new model called Perch. So it's in addition, it's better than BirdNet for Hawaiian birds. And okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be a little I don't know, data heavy just for a couple slides here. But basically, when you record a bird, you can run that recording through an AI classifier, we call it, and it will give you a probability. It'll identify what species. Every song in your recording, you can run it through, and it'll identify what that species is. But what it does is it gives you a probability that it's that species. And it's between 0 and 1, right? And so, for example, I have a pointer here, but got this. This is so. If you guys have been on the Puakala on the road down to Puakala, you've seen a big box with solar panels on it on the left-hand side, right up, just a little bit below the barn. That is a real-time recorder where this was set up by the Cornell lab, and we're working with them. And so you can actually go online and click on this website and listen to what's going on at Hakalau right now. And BirdNet is automatically identifying the song of every species it hears in that area. And so
you use the mouse, the arrow.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I might be able to just for example, this is Apapane, and this is the confidence. So it says, oh, it's 41% sure that song was Apapane. Okay, it's 54% sure that was a red-billed Leothrix, 54 Apapane, and so forth. And so, you know, when you're trying to monitor birds, what do you do with 40% confidence that you got the bird? Is it a bird? It's either the bird or it's not. And so that has created some big problems for us when we're trying to monitor birds when the computer is giving you just the probability that's the bird. It's never 100% or very rarely 100%, especially with our birds. So working with Tom and Amanda Naveen from our lab, who some of you may know, we've created this new acoustic variable called call density, which basically is able to take all of these probabilities, put them into a curve that ranges, the probabilities range from 0 to 1 here. And I'm not going to go through this, but basically what it does is, okay, I kind of will. You take the soundscape, and for a particular species, say Amakihi, and this is the 50% probability. So you take all the songs that was about 50% sure, and it builds up a curve here. And so that goes out from 0 to 1. And then this was Tom Denton's idea, basically dividing this curve of the probabilities of all the different songs that it picked up. And you put it into 4 bins. And then what we do is we resample visually from each of those 4 bins. And so we have students in the lab, the perch algorithms spits out 50 samples from each of these. It says, okay, so in this range, the probability is 0 to 50% that was the song. All of those songs that were in here get reanalyzed by a person in the lab, and we say yes or no. Was it really or was it not? And then for all the ones in this one, yes or no, was it not? We go through all this math with all that. I'm not going to focus on that. But anyways, you end up with a variable after going through all this called Hall density, which is the sum of the probabilities of it being a positive given. No, I can't even do it right now. Anyways, you end up with a call density of 0.44, but it gives you error bars with it too. And this 0.44 can be used to compare. It's a measure of the number of times. It's kind of like, it's sort of like calls per minute, but it's more accurate than calls per minute. And we can use this to compare bird abundance over time and between different recorders. So if the call density is 0.44 in this recorder, and it's 0.3 in this recorder, then we think, and I'm going to show some data to demonstrate this, that means that there's more birds at the one with the higher call density, right? And so we're really excited about this new variable, and it's gotten a lot of interest from around the world, really, for monitoring bird populations. And so for one thing it can do, you can track relative abundance of birds across stations in time. And so these are from a bunch of different recorders from a Kona forest for different species. And you can see that for all these species here, the call density, it always ranges from 0 to 1, or in this case not, but relatively there were more birds at this one than this one for the period that those recorders were out. Okay, so that's great. So relatively speaking, there's more birds here than here, but it's not, you know, if in ecology, us ecologists are really more interested in not just the relatively comparing, we want to know the actual numbers of birds, the abundance and the density of birds, right? So the next question is, can that call density estimator be used to actually measure the number of birds? We want to know how many birds at Hakalau there are in these areas, not relatively how many there are. And so, you know, we've been working really closely with Rick Camp, who's here right now, on another study and comparing these call density estimates to the traditional point count estimates, right? Where the observers go down and the transects once per year, and we visually observe them and write the distance, and then you do that for lots and lots of stations. You can come up with the density of birds for each species in different tracts of habitat. And you compare that between years to see if the birds are increasing or decreasing. And there's a lot of work that goes into doing that. And so we want to know how good this new variable call density, which you can get from just putting these recorders out remotely in the forest, let them do all the work. You'll pick them up 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever. How well does that compare to the traditional methods, right? And so we just had this paper that came out in this journal, Ecological Indicators, just a month ago. And Rick was, played a big role on this. But basically, over the last 3 years at Hakalau, and with Hakalau's support and Steve Kendall's support and everybody else, all the bird counters at Hakalau, they carried a small recorder with them. And so when they were counting their birds with the traditional methods, we were recording exactly what was going on in the forest when they were doing their counts. And so now we have two ways of measuring. We can get the call density. We did this on like 1,200 stations at all these different forest types. At Hakalau, closed, open pasture, Pu'umaka'ala, Palila land, and then over 3 years, for all the different species of honey creepers, we compared the traditional point count estimates to the call density estimates. And I don't know if you can see that. I think I've got a better slides here for each species. So this is, for example, for Iwi and Oma'o, the EV on the left, the bird density, which is the traditional estimate of bird numbers, and then call density, which is our new method, you can see that those are really tight fits, really high R squareds. And so especially R squared of 88%, you know, if you're a biologist, you're like, man, this is looking pretty good. For Omaha, it's 70%, a little less, but still pretty dang good, you know? And so we're very excited about this because it holds for all the different species. For Akepa, an R squared of 87% on the left, for Amakihi, 82%. And so what it means is we think that this is an additional tool for improving the way that we can monitor changes in distribution of abundance of birds at Hakalau over the long term. We've got a lot of historic recordings. We can go back and look at the call density of these 10-year-old recordings. We can see how many birds there were at these stations at Hakalau 10 years ago, and compare it to the soundscape now. The good thing about this is it's all archivable. As algorithms improve, we can just keep going back to these data that we've got. It's all stored on the cloud, all 85 terabytes worth or whatever. And so there's just lots of new questions now that we can answer that we couldn't even ask before. And now there's a lot of, so it really opens up just kind of a whole new world of ways of questions that we can ask about bird distribution and abundance for all the species, not just Hakalau, but for everywhere. So Josie Tupu, I'm going to show a slide of hers real fast. She's a grad student in our lab. She's been monitoring, she's put out these recorders along transects at Hakalau from like the bottom to the top, and evaluating changes in abundance based on this call density variables across the elevational gradient. Lauren Smith, she's doing the same thing, but at Maui in response to the IIT efforts. She's got these, she's got like 65 recorders in areas where they're releasing IIT mosquitoes and not. And so we're hoping for some long-term data to evaluate the effectiveness of IIT. We think that we can even use it for estimating reproductive success in birds, because the baby birds are noisy. They're rack, rack, rack all the time. And so you can pick that up on the recorders and you can compare the numbers of racks every season. Over years, you can see if there's more babies begging in the forest. Is reproductive success good this year or not, based on acoustics? And so, there's just a lot of really neat applications for this technology. We're working with Fish and Wildlife, with the National Park Service, DOFA, Maui Nui Seabird Recovery Program, Kauai Forest Bird Recovery Program, to improve the way we monitor seabirds and rare forest birds all across Hawaii using these new techniques. 5 minutes. Yeah. That's perfect, because I'm just about done. Thank you. And so this is just some of Josie's preliminary data. She's got, she has song meters at Hakalau from low elevation, these are in meters, up to high elevation. And this is just an example for Alavi. And so you can see, as you might expect, changes in call density for Alavi, very few, but there's actually picking up, a little bit down there. Increases as you get up, and then it decreases again towards the top. On this particular transect, there wasn't as many Alavi at the highest elevation one. But this is just the kind of information you can get. You can statistically compare these things because we have error bars associated with it and sample sizes. And so you can look for statistical differences over time. So we're super excited about that. As I mentioned, call density can be used to look at the effects of humans on bird behavior. Tom, Katie asked me before the Walk for the Wild if we could put out recorders in the forest along the road going down and to look at the effect of humans on bird behavior. So 2 weeks before the Walk for the Wild, we went out there, we put 10 recorders on the Puakala Road, and we put 4 recorders as controls in areas where people were going. We recorded what the call density or the amount of song in the forest. This is just for Oma'o. So Oma'o are big, they're down low, they're more likely to be affected by humans because they're lower. And so then what we did was we compared the call density of Oma'o before the Walk for the Wild, during the Walk for the Wild, and then after on both the road and in areas where there was no humans. And as you can see, in the control, basically all of the boxes overlap with each other. So not a big difference in the control in before, day of, and after. That's the graph on the left-hand side. The treatment is the Walk for the Wild treatment. And you can see that before, the call density for Oma'o was significantly higher than on the day of. So basically, what did we do? As you can see below, large numbers of loud humans have an effect on Oma'o's singing behavior. That's the take-home message for this. Afterwards, they seem to rebound a bit. Does this really affect their reproductive success or ability to survive? I don't think so, probably not. And this was a huge group of people, a big pulse of people, right? I think small groups scattered throughout the forest, I even doubt more that has an effect on the birds. We need to do this for other species. I think it would have a less effect on other species that aren't so close to the ground. Like Oma'o are generally kind of mid-canopy birds. So anyways, we're working with Rick Camp, we're working with Tom Denton at Google, with the Cornell Lab folks still to basically just improve the way we monitor birds by establishing these acoustic networks across the landscape. Some of that $10,000 grant that Pete Stein got from Stanford, some of that's gone to purchase a lot of song mirrors, which we've already started deploying at Hakalau in some areas to improve the way we can monitor the birds there. But we're just really excited about the potential for this, for bird monitoring. And that's basically it. So of course, we have just lots of lab members that take part in this. Lots of students and interns help in the lab to actually do these, what we call validations. So when the model tells us this is what we think it is, they have to actually verify that that's so a lot of students in the lab are learning the songs of all these species and then helping train the models to improve based on saying yes or no, that's what this really is. And anyways, so yeah, all these folks have been helping out, and I guess that's it for now, but thank you all so much for coming.
Question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Someone was asking if there's acoustic monitoring of the Alala in Valley.
Yeah, there is actually. We're working with them. Yeah, we did it on this island when they were doing the release, and they're also monitoring the birds there as well. And we're looking at changes in their vocal behavior from the aviary to the wild, seeing how that affects what they're saying to each other, like the new environment, how does it affect their vocal behavior? Yeah. Oh, we have time.
Yeah, one more, yeah.
Yeah.
So have you done anything or thought about doing anything with visual, some kind of basically automated where you?
Yeah. It actually is sort of a visual detection. It uses the spectrogram. It uses the spectrogram signature to determine the bird, these AI tools. Yeah. It turns out to be better than just using the sound itself. Yeah.
Have you done anything with like video recording where you use software for, like industrial stuff? You can, or military, pick out a target, but if you, recorded a section of the forest and then looked for color signature of a bird.
Yeah, this perch can do that. So we did this for Oahu. There was a report, someone was sure that they saw, not Oahu, O'u in the park. So a very rare bird that hasn't been seen in 40 years. So we trained perch we put recorders out there for 2 months, And then we train, this is what an OU song looks like. Tell us if there's an OU in these 2 months of recordings. And there wasn't. But it's possible. It's a neat new tool, you know, for detecting rare species too. Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, everybody.
Fascinating information, fascinating data. I'm going to ask Pete Stein to come up and introduce our next speaker, Kate Smith.
Yeah, so a lot of you who remember what the refuge looked like when it started in 1985, the vast areas of kikuyu grass, upper elevations. And ever since then, with the help of people in this room and a cast of thousands, we've been adding in more and more forests to this landscape over this 40-year period. And how many times have you wondered how much have we added? Can we quantify the reforestation that's occurred on the refuge over this period of time? So we thought about that, and I reached out to a colleague of mine at UC Irvine, Mike Goulden, who's in the Department of Earth System Science. And we found Faith, an undergrad student who was willing to work with us to investigate this issue. So I'm going to introduce Faith. She's a 4th-year undergrad at UC Irvine. She's a business administration major, doubling with environmental science and policy. She specializes in GIS work. She's going to graduate this spring with honors at UC Irvine. She's currently a student researcher in the Department of Earth System Sciences, and she's collaborating with Elizabeth Crook, who's a professor at UC Irvine. We engaged Faith in this project, and she's done a great job, and she's going to tell you what we learned. So Faith, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. It's honestly been so inspiring to see all the work that all of you have put into this, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. Just really quickly, I know that we're 5 years into using Zoom, but I can't see anybody, so if there's any problems, please just shout at me, let me know, and I will try to fix it to the best of my ability. As Pete said, I am an undergraduate at UC Irvine in the Department of Earth System Sciences. I've been working with my advisor, Elizabeth Crook, who is also here today, somewhere in the chat, and as well as the Hakalau team to get that answer and quantify the recovery we've seen in the Hakalau forest. So with that, let's get into it. So going into this research, we knew that replantation had occurred throughout the forest. So the big question was, where were these efforts focused? So given what we learned about the elevation limits for mosquitoes and therefore avian malaria, we chose to focus on this clear-cut region that sits above the 5,000 feet range. Now, if you look at this image on the left-hand side, you can see that the land is almost entirely barren. And this is in 1990. And then on the right-hand side is a picture from last year. So obviously, a lot has changed. Now, with this established, we were able to come up with our key question. How much reforestation has occurred in the clear-cut area of the Hakalau Reserve since replanting began? Okay, my next slide. Now, with this question established, we came up with an approach that included using satellite imagery to measure normalized difference vegetation index, also known as NDVI, that's how I will refer to it from here on out, which is a measure of greenness. And in this approach, we make the assumption that the study area was clear-cut prior to reforestation, which we know might not be 100% correct, but it's the assumption we need to go forward with this approach. Now, when I started to look for satellite images to use for the process, I was able to I struggled to come up with some good images due to cloud coverage on the Big Island, which there's so many clouds and it's really hard to get imagery with all that out there. In addition to this, the Landsat system did undergo numerous changes between 1990 and 2024. And there were some big issues that happened in the early 2000s, which made this process really difficult. So with all of this happening, we had to come up with a revised approach, which was to use additional satellites to determine an appropriate NDVI measurement threshold. Okay, so as I have mentioned, our original idea was to measure tree growth using NDVI from Landsat images. Now, this process includes distinguishing green from non-green areas, which basically just refers to trees versus clear-cut areas. Now, because there are grasses in the background of these images, this method wasn't as simple as we had initially assumed it would be. And as you can see here, depending on which threshold we used to determine what is bare and what is covered, you get a very large difference in the estimates. So on the left-hand side, you can see we have an estimate of about 49%, and we get all the way up to 78% with the least conservative estimate. So it was at this point that we decided to try to find out which of these estimates was the most accurate to move forward with our calculations. And this is where the NDVI Sentinel imagery comes into play. Now, the Sentinel mission first was launched in 2014 and provides very high resolution data. And as you can see in this image, you can actually visualize the rows of trees that were planted. And that's how we know this is really high quality data, and it's something really cool to look at. I don't know if any of you recognize which rows you were responsible for, but maybe that's something cool to look into. And doing the same NDVI analysis of this data, we were able to establish a green area of approximately 45%. Now, when you look at this, you might wonder why we don't just use Sentinel imaging for the whole research process. And that's because, first of all, it only goes back until 2014. And in this project, we really need to go back to the start of the replantation. And beside this, because the data is such high quality, it's a large data set, which is much harder to manage, as my computer will testify to. Yeah, so that is the NDVI Sentinel that we went with. And now with the NDVI Landsat and Sentinel thresholds established, we decided to play around with another method, which is moisture index. And moisture index basically allows us to determine the water content of vegetation. And we figured bringing this into play would allow us to make the most accurate model possible for this research project. So as you can see, I also came up with 3 different thresholds coming in at green areas ranging from around 53 to 59%. So even this was giving us a little closer numbers than we were seeing with the original Landsat NDVI. Now, putting this all together, based on our threshold findings, we can compare Landsat NDVI, Sentinel NDVI, and moisture index. Looking at these numbers, we were able to determine that we can most accurately use the most conservative NDVI estimate to support that there has been approximately 50% growth since replantation began. So with this conservative threshold established, knowing we're at maybe around 50% now, we were able to apply it to images through time. So first, another reminder, we do assume that in 1990, green area is at about 0%. So in 2000, we see an increase to almost 9%. 14 years after that, greenness is at about 34%. And today, we've concluded that the Hakalau Forest's northern clear-cut area is about 50% restored. So moving forward, we hope that the team here and all of you guys, all the members, will continue to monitor the growth of this forest. And in order to help with this, we have packaged this data along with the methodology behind it so it can be easily used by the team. And this research can continue, and all of your good work can really lead to great things. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you for your support in this process, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Paige? Yes.
Sure. So Faith, did you go out, or you or somebody go out to like field verify a portion of what your data is showing?
You're gonna have to repeat it, you can't hear.
It's okay. I think I got the question. So I wasn't able to verify this, but working with the Hakalau team and Tom was really helpful in kind of verifying which regions had been worked on. And we also verify it with newer like Google Earth satellite imagery where you can really see the difference between what the data is suggesting and what you can actually visualize.
Wait, I have a question. This is Pete. Can you tell us, or if you don't have it handy, we'll get it later, but that increase of about 50%, how many acres approximately does it represent?
Yeah, so the study area was approximately 3,500 total acres, which means that 50% threshold would be about 1,700 acres of regrowth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faith, we appreciate it. One more question.
What are your career plans gonna do when you graduate?
That's a great question. You know, I'm really passionate about conservation, and that's something I want to continue doing. I love the GIS application of it. So hopefully somewhere around there, if anyone you know is hiring, you have my email on the last slide. So yeah, thank you. Just working in this domain.
Thanks very much, Faith.
Thank you.
Great. So now we have to go on to the business side of things. We have a vote for our slate of candidates. And I want to remind everyone that you have to be a member to be able to vote for this. I'll ask you to raise your hands, please. So I'm going to call for.
So for those of you on Zoom, I'm going to place everyone who is not a current member in the waiting room, and there will be a pop-up when she calls for the vote that you can select.
Thank you. Okay, can I hear, so we need a motion, please, to vote on the nominating and governance committee slate of candidates. Pat Hart is on that slate. He filled a position previously at the end of last year. So we're re-upping him, and then new board members, Alyssa McDonald, who's doing our AB, Bruce O'Morey, plus extreme exposure, Sharon Scott, and Bill Stormont. So we have a total of 5 new candidates. So can I call for here a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Anyone would like to second that?
Second.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so we need in this room, we need please raise your hands if you are in agreement with the slate of candidates. And Pete is going to be counting heads.
On Zoom, it's coming in one moment.
Good.
27.
27, okay, good, thank you. Okay, so Alyssa's counting here the online people. Yeah, very much will have, should have.
You can vote too if you want.
Okay, okay. Sure.
We're gonna see what you're voting, but. You can vote.
No surprise, yeah, no pressure.
Sorry. We need 40. 40.
Raise your hands again.
Oh, yeah. I should vote for myself. Need one more person on Zoom. Oh, waiting.
What's that?
You voted online.
Oh, yeah, I did.
+1, my wife walked that side.
30.
Got 12. We need 43. Wait, we're ready. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you. Congratulations to everybody. All the new 5 new members of our board. Well, we're meeting with for our first board meeting this afternoon. So with that, I call the official meeting, morning meeting to a close. Thank you to all the speakers. Everyone was fabulous. Wasn't that really interesting information? We have a 15-minute break until, and then Brett Mossman's going to give a talk about the IKEA pull-out. Then at about 12:15, we'll go outside for the mural dedication. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, just a quick note about the bentos. For those of you who pre-ordered bentos, it's going to be a pickup outside by the t-shirts. And then you'll need to give them $10 for the bento order. And then board members need to check in with Lisa, who's just here, to get your bentos. And then don't forget to buy t-shirts, your t-shirts. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your presence here. Yeah.